Hi guys, this is Miss Anderson, and we are going to write this essay together, you and I. So let's go. Okay, so to write your essay, there are a couple of things you need, so go ahead and get these and then come back. You will need the writing task, which is in the passages, the packet with the passages. You will also need the sheet on how to write your introductory paragraph. You will need your body paragraph example, the conclusion example, and of course, you'll need your composition book and a sharpened pencil. All right, let's go. Okay, so here is our writing task, okay? So the first thing they did was gave us like a little summary of the passages. The summary says the first automobiles gained popularity in the early 1900s and have impacted people ever since. So that's a summary of both passages. Now, our writing task is to write an explanatory essay in our own words that explains the various impacts of the automobile. So we have to pull out two ways that the automobiles has impacted Americans and explain that. And then we are to use evidence from both texts. So that is actually what we have to do. Okay, so here are both passages. I am not going to read them because we have already read them in class. So if you are not familiar with them, then please go ahead and pause the video and reread them so that you are familiar with what the passages entail as well. So the two passages that we have are The Rise of the Automobile and 20th Century Automobiles. Here we have how to write our introductory paragraph, and it contains all of the things that we need in our introductory paragraph, such as our topic plus our point, which is our thesis statement. Then we need a preview sentence and our attention grabber. We need background information, and then we need a concluding sentence that will transition us into our next paragraph. Here is an example taken from the raw milk passage of our two body paragraphs. And the reason why I've included this is so that you can see highlighted the items that we need in a body paragraph, such as our transition phrases, our topic sentence, which gives our reason or opinion, and then our evidence, and then our concluding sentence. And here is our conclusion paragraph, and it is highlighted just the same as the body paragraph, so you can see each of the items that need to be included. So we have a transition phrase, we have the connection between the conclusion back to the introduction and the thesis, and then we are restating our thesis without saying it over again, and then we are encouraging the reader to think, feel, or act in some way. Okay, so when you write an essay, the first thing that you need to do is read and understand the writing task, okay? So anytime you sit down to take a test, okay, and it has an essay attached to it, it is best if you can to read the writing prompt before you read the essay because that will help you while you are reading the essay in being able to pick out things that will be good to put in your essay. The next thing you want to do is read the passages and, of course, annotate. That goes without saying. And then write down the main idea for each passage and then pull out evidence from each passage in order to put in your essay. Okay? So here I have rewritten, and this is your first thing that I want you to do. Take out your composition book, please. Insert, start a page header on a fresh new page. Go ahead and take these notes and put them in your composition book. So what you will do is pause the video, do your page header, write down the task, which is right here in front of you. Write an explanatory essay that explains the impact of the automobile on Americans using evidence from both texts. You're going to write that in your composition book. Next, you're going to write down the main idea from passage number 1, which is the rise of the automobile. And then the evidence that I pulled from passage number 1 is people with automobiles had new freedom and flexibility. And then you're also going to write down the main idea from passage number 2, and that is the automobiles that are now in the 20th century. And the evidence that I pulled from there is the first automobiles were luxury, but now because they made mass productions that lowered the cost, now just about every family or every household owns an automobile. So go ahead and pause the video, add that to your composition book, and then we can move to the next slide. Okay, so now that you have that in your composition book, you are ready to start drafting your essay. All right, so our introductory, let's just go over very quickly what we need in our paragraph, okay? So we need our introductory paragraph is going to need our attention grabber. It's going to need our thesis statement, which is our topic plus our point, a preview sentence, background information, and then a transition sentence. Our body paragraph is going to need a transition phrase, a topic sentence that's going to include our points, citing and explanation of evidence from the passage, and then any other information that will help make it clear. And then we will need a concluding sentence that will transition us to the next paragraph. And then the conclusion paragraph is also going to need a transition phrase, but it's going to connect the conclusion back to the introduction and the thesis. We are going to restate the thesis without repeating the same thing, and we are going to encourage the reader to do some thinking. Okay, so now it is your turn to write, okay? So you have this right here down in your composition book, so let's move on. Okay, so here I have written the introduction and the first body sentence. I'm going to go ahead and give this to you so that you see what an example essay looks like for these two passages, okay? So I'm going to read it to you, and then you are going to rewrite it in your composition book. Yes, you are going to rewrite this introduction and body paragraph in your composition book. All right. Have you ever wondered what life would be like if we did not have cars? Would you want to walk to school or work? Since the first automobile came on the scene in the 1800s, people have come to depend on their automobile. Automobiles are used for work, travel, and family visits and are now a common part of almost every American's life because of the freedom, flexibility, and relatively low cost of having one. The rise of automobiles was fast and furious. All right, so I challenge you to go and pick out all of the elements that are in that introductory essay. Body paragraph 1. To start, before automobiles, people used horses and carriages for their transportation. This limited the distance people could travel. It also meant the costly upkeep of the horses and the pollution in the form of feces that citizens had to deal with. According to passage 1, people with automobiles had new freedom and flexibility. People could now travel longer distances for work. They could also take leisurely drives around the city, and they could even travel across cities if they wanted. Additionally, automobiles gave farmers the ability to obtain supplies quickly. So no matter if people lived in the city or on a farm, the automobile made life a lot easier. So now, as you can see, there's several typos like longer and work that I expect for you to correct when you write it down in your composition book, okay? Those are just typos where I typed the wrong thing, and you can correct them on your end. So I also challenge you to pick out, to analyze the paragraph and see if you can find all of the elements that should be in a body paragraph. Sorry about that. All right, so once you're going to pause this video, go ahead and write this in your composition book, and then we'll move on to the next body paragraph. Okay, so now we're at body paragraph 2 and the conclusion. You are going to add both of these to your composition book. Body paragraph 2. Another point to make is that while the first automobiles were luxury items, mass production lowered the cost. According to passage 2, in 1900s, Americans owned 8,000 cars. 2 decades later, Americans own 8 million cars. With more cars came construction of roads, gas stations, and interstate highways. The automobile revolution generated jobs from automakers to car mechanics, gas station attendants, and short order cooks. Cars had a titanic effect on cities. And of course, with all the cars came the negative effect of pollution. Toxins from so many cars have now brought a new concern for our health. Because if you remember in the first passage, that was one of the reasons for the invention of cars, and that was to stop the pollution of the horses putting all of the feces in the air. Because feces poop is very dangerous. You're not supposed to inhale that stuff. That's And so with so many horses, with every family having a horse and horses pooping all day every day, there was massive amounts of feces in the cities. And so the cars were actually invented to solve that problem. But then check it out. Now that we have so many cars on the road and cars burn fuel, that fuel puts what we call emissions into the air, which hurts the ozone, which creates bad air, which put toxins in the air. And so it gives us lung problems and respiratory problems and all kind of diseases and stuff. So here we are, if you notice, back where we started. So now we need to invent something else that's going to replace the car. It's funny, actually. All right, so let's go move on to the conclusion paragraph, okay? In conclusion, the rise of the automobile has been outstanding. From horses and carriages to automobiles and trucks, transportation now is much easier for Americans. Cars gave Americans freedom to explore the cities and states and the flexibility to travel on the weekend and holidays. In addition, as Americans became able to purchase automobiles, they are now more common than anyone would have expected when they were first introduced. And while automobiles have many benefits, we must not forget that they can provide large amounts of toxic emissions that can cause lung disorders and other health problems. Now is the time for the invention of the electric car. But wait, we do have an electric car. So I thought that ending was kind of funny. You tell me what you think, okay? All right, let's move on. So add those two, pause the video, and add those two to your composition book. Okay, so now we have come to the end of this video, okay? And so here we have all 4 paragraphs together, and I have typed them up and I have formatted them. If you look, it has the page header nice and neat up top. It only has one space between that and the title, and then a space between each paragraph, and then each paragraph is indented. So after you have written the essay in your composition book, now you are going to revise it and edit it and check it to make sure that it is correct. And you are going to rewrite it in Microsoft Word so that you can send it to me. Okay? All right, so I'm not going to reread the essay because I think that that's unnecessary. But I do like the title. I gave it a title, The Fast and the Furious. And you're going to copy this exactly as I have it, okay? The Fast and the Furious. So what I want you to understand is how an essay is written, okay? We're going to write another essay pretty soon, but for now we need to move on to some other learning, and then we'll come back and you'll probably write your argumentative essay, okay? All right, so reread the essay. type it up and then send it to me. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.